Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a Willis Gardner K7000 25-inch P538 board, and this was sent in because, let's see, chassis issue, does not power on, symptoms, turned on Neo Geo and had some arcing in the tube. Well, that's no good, because even if we get this working, if you're arcing inside the tube, you're just going to damage it again. The tube is bad. So we need to let the owner of this know that if he's got arcing inside of his tube has lost vacuum and he's just going to damage his chassis again. But we'll get it fixed regardless. The picture became blank, no image, game, CPU does power on. So apparently this got taken out from a bad picture tube. But I did notice that it's got a lot of work done to it. It's already got a cap kit, and some of the caps have been put in rather kind of haphazardly. And it does have this little vertical mod. I haven't ever seen this particular version of the mod before, but it's part of the vertical circuit. It's a vertical mod. Yeah, otherwise it's pretty dirty, but it is complete. And yeah, so I'm gonna probably clean it before I work on it because of how dirty it is. However, the bottom side has a lot of iffy solder joints. The common issue here and here. And what's most interesting is kind of stuff like this, and there were some other things that were kind of iffy. Well, especially the flyback here. It looks like somebody has either replaced or removed and reinstalled the original flyback because the solder joints are not good at all, and this cap fell off completely. When I first took it out of the wrapping, this was barely soldered on at all, and this wasn't soldered on at all. Like, this leg here was the only leg soldered on, and even that it was barely hanging on, and this leg wasn't soldered on at all. I could sit here and go like this, it wasn't even soldered. So I don't know who took this out, or I don't know if they took it out to try and troubleshoot and put the original back in, or tried to swap one from another chassis, or really what happened. But this is substandard to say the least, and this wasn't even soldered in properly, so I got to get that back on there. But for the most part, I mean, I don't even know how close I can get here. If we can look at this. No, this doesn't zoom in hardly at all. Is it because I'm going too quick? I need to change the focus settings on my camera because I can't zoom in that far. I got a new camera here and I'm trying to get it figured out. I probably, when I cut away here to get this clean and come back, I'll see if I can figure out the focus issues. But this is not good. And I might give you a different, yeah, it's just not good. Things like this as well, D18 is pretty sloppily there. So anyway, yeah, things like this, I mean, that's no good. So that kind of stuff's all over the place. And the caps, like this cap is the leaning tower of capacity here, and yeah, it's pretty filthy as well. So what we're gonna do first is get it clean, so we have a good working surface to do our job here, and then we're gonna figure out what's wrong with it. So we'll clean it, figure out what's wrong with it, try and fix these caps up a bit to make them look a bit better. And yeah, this one here is wiggling around from a bad pad. It's connected, but it's just not very good. Any broken pots on the remote board? Nope, they're all okay. But this one's dirty too. Yikes. Look at that. Okay, neck board. All these pots are okay. Neck board actually seems pretty good, pretty clean. So, okay, well, let's get this thing cleaned up. When I come back, I'll show it off, and then we'll try and work on fixing some of these crooked pots and solder joints and do some reflow and do our testing, figure out what's wrong with it, get our cap reinstalled across the flyback. It needs a new flyback. I don't think I have any right now, so I'm probably going to have to order some. But assuming that this flyback actually works, I'll do what needs to be done. We'll get this fixed and running and working and complete. And then that way we can complete the video, and then I'll order a flyback and replace it and test it again afterward off camera. But for the scope of this video, we're going to try and get this thing repaired in a working condition, and then I'll change this out later. I don't need to show that on the camera for the video. So, all right, well, let's get it clean and come back. Let's first give you an idea here of what this looks like before we clean it. And I wonder if I can scoot this back into the light a bit better. That's left and right. I got a new tripod here too. There we go. That's better. Okay, so there's an idea before and let's switch to the after. And here's after. Nice quick cleaning with some Simple Green, hot water, and compressed air to clean everything off. Then you let it sit for a little bit, and it turns out quite nice. Even the backside's all clean. So, yep, nice and quick job. So now we can get to work on trying to figure out what exactly is happening with this. But I guess first what we need to do is toss a good old zip tie on here to prevent these wires from breaking. And what I think I'm going to do is, because I don't want to have to wait 3, 4, 5 days for a new flyback to arrive, I've got a couple of chassis that I have in my stock for as backups for machines at the arcade if they go down. I'm going to steal a new flyback off of one of those other chassis and put it on here. And then when I order a replacement, I'll just put a new one on the one I robbed for this one. So that way I can get this one fixed and in working order and back to the owner without having to wait 3, 4, 5 days. So that way we can get this wrapped up without having to wait. And then when the new one comes in, I'll replace the one I robbed and it'll all be good to go. So I think that's what I'm going to do, because I got to take this one out anyway to make sure the pads. So whenever somebody replaces or messes with or fiddles with these flyback pads, I always like to take the flyback out, make sure they didn't damage the pads or break a trace or something, which would explain why there's no power or no high voltage. So, and then scotch tape on a connection is always a good idea. But anyway, yeah, it turned out very nice, very clean. Much better than it was. Now we have a good working platform to go off of. So let's begin by just testing the various power components. Again, the note said that it, the exact verbiage is, does not power on. So let us see if we can figure out why that is. Let's start with voltage regulator. So the tall voltage regulator versus the wide one. The wide one is pins 1 and 4 you test, and the tall one is pins 3 and 4. However, you can test the B plus resistor as opposed to the regulator to find out, because if your B plus resistor reads shorted, your voltage regulator is shorted. If your B plus resistor checks good, your voltage regulator should be good. So if we go to ohms on the meter and we go across the resistor, should be 180 ohms, give or take. And 1.0 voltage regulator is shorted. Well, that was quick and easy. I'm sure there's other stuff, but look at that, 1.0. So our voltage regulator is absolutely bad. But what's odd is that our fuse appears to be good, 0.2 ohms. So I'm not sure why the fuse didn't blow unless they replaced it, or that's 2 amps, okay, unless they overrated it, but no, it's 2 amps. It looks pretty brand new to me. I think the original fuse blew, and they put a new one in. But anyway, so yeah, voltage regulator is kaput. So let's keep going here. You can actually confirm this by going to pins 3 and 4. The red and blue wires here run to pins 3 and 4. So if we actually, I got this backwards here, pin 1 is all the way to the left. So if we go to pins 3 and 4 here, it's going to be the same thing, I'll bet. Yep, 0.9. There we go, 1.0, better connection. So that's got to go. But let's test. Someone's replaced the HOT at some point because the legs are super long. That shouldn't be. Let's test our HOT here. Let's put this back to diode mode. Flip our iron on. And HOT is also shorted. Yikes! That means our critical safety cap's going to read shorted. This is that one. Okay, this must be two separate caps. Yep, this is a two separate cap job. You see there's two different caps. That's why one reads short and the other one doesn't. So again, you read these catty corner from each other. That one's not on the HOT circuit, but this one is. Yeah, see? So, okay. Yeah, wow. All right. Let's test the rest of this stuff here. We should get 270 on. Oh, let's move this back here. I don't want to get off. Okay, and then let's zoom out. All right, so R97 should be 270, yeah, 274. R89 here should be 3.8, I think, give or take. 3.7, close enough. R96 is 1.8. Yep, let's see. Well, yeah, R101 should be should be, I think, 6K, but in circuit it's usually around 5. 4.0 is a little low from what is normally reading, but it's not bad. I always forget this one, R88, this should be 1.8K regardless of whatever it is. Yeah, 1.8. So the power resistors are okay. This one should be 15 ohms. Yep, and usually you can tell all your rectifier diodes are going to be okay. If R104 here reads 15 ohms, you know your rectifier diodes are good. If the rectifier diodes are shorted, then this usually reads way like 5 ohms or something, but we can test them anyway. D19 is good, D20 is good, D21 good, D22 good, D24 and D23. All right, as suspected, those were all okay. All right, well, that's basically it. We can check D18. Again, this guy in here, there's a diode across right there. We can check D18. D18 is good. Is our width cap shorted? The width cap is not shorted. Okay, C38. Yeah, C38 is the width cap. Actually, I think I get... Yeah, that's correct. This is our width cap right there, and it's not shorted. Okay. Yeah, so it's HOT and voltage regulator. Now, the fuse, there's no way both these could be blown. Well, yeah, someone has definitely changed the HOT, and it's also the wrong one. It's not the right HOT, but the fuse would definitely go. So I think someone changed this out and then didn't try and power it up after that. But the HOT, it's not the 3686. It's the NTE 2302. Yeah, that's, I don't know if that's compatible, if it's the right one, if it even will work in the 7000. I don't know, but it's not original because somebody has not secured it all the way. So it's not attached to the heatsink properly. The legs weren't cut off of it. So someone's definitely been messing around with that. That could have been probably a contributing factor to the issue, most likely. But again, if the tube was arcing inside the neck, I wouldn't even attempt to power this up again on that tube. Something's wrong with that tube. It looks like the shutdown pot's been replaced. So someone was obviously tinkering around with the shutdown pot. That is not the original shutdown pot. All the glue is gone. So that could be a factor as well. It's not set properly. But so I guess what we'll do is we will change the flyback. We will change the HOT. We will change the voltage regulator. Then we'll make sure they test good in circuit. And then we'll go through and clean and fix up all these bad solder joints. And then we'll fix all these leaning tower of caps, make sure those are nice and straight and flat and flush with the board, and take care of any other solder stuff that needs done. Do one last test to make sure nothing else checks bad, and then give it a try. So, all right, let's go through our bag of pots. We need to remember to put our cap that fell off back across the flyback legs. Let's grab our K7000 bag of parts. And let's get, what do we need here? 3130. I've got 4 3130s on hand. And the bag won't open. Brand new STR 3130. And our diode should be across pins 3 and 4. Can we see that? There we go. So pin 3 and 4. There it is. Okay. So that should be good. Let's set that aside. Now we can... Where did that go? Here it was. Okay. Closed up. Now let's grab a... I got some STR 3123s too. Let's grab our sales and HOT. I got more than, well, let's combine these. You rascals, how come you're in 2 separate bags? 123s, 130s. Okay, plenty of 3130s. 5 of them, all right. Okay, these are all counterfeit that I keep as an example. Plenty of the wider ones, R104s. So I only have 2 HOTs. Oh, I'm sorry, they're the 1398s. What did I say, 3686? Those are for the 7400 and that series. Sorry about that. D1398. These are the correct HOT. So I don't know if this one is compatible or the right one. I don't know if this caused our issue. I have no idea, but this is what's supposed to be in there, the 1398. So we have our HOT and our voltage regulator. Okay, I gotta order more parts. Getting low. Got plenty of fuses and pins and vertical amps, IC2s, IC1s. Okay, we got our parts on hand. We don't need a cap kit. All right. I guess what we'll do is we'll first try and tackle. I think what we'll do is let's remove the flyback first, so it makes it easier to flip and move this thing around. Disconnect that and disconnect this. And then let's get our desoldering station up and running. I'm going to cut away. When I come back, we'll have it operational, up to temperature, and we'll get working on getting this flyback out of here. All right. All right, stand by. Well, for you, it'll be a couple of seconds. For me, it'll be about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. All right, so let's get this thing out of here. Let's zoom in a bit. All right, get my fan going so I don't breathe all these fumes in. I have you know what? Let's try a different method here. Let's turn on my fume extractor. I just don't like to use this because it's always in the way. But probably should use it more often. I just normally use the fan because it blows all the fumes out from in front of me. I don't breathe them in, but we'll try the fume extractor. There we go. It just always seems to be in the way. again, I use the iron to heat up the pad because the surface area of the desoldering input here is very small. So even though it's 800, I have it at 800 degrees, and it doesn't work that well on the larger pads. So I heat the pad up with the iron and just suck it up with the gun, and it works just beautifully like that. You don't have to hold the heat on there very long and damage the pads. It just works so well. That's why I do it this way. There you go, quick and easy. Then afterward, we clean it out. Then I leave the cleaning device in there to prevent the solder inside of there from hardening, because then you'll never get it to unharden if it gets in a nice crevice and cracking. I bought a Hako, whatever they're called, and the first time that I used it, it got clogged up, and I was never able to unclog it. It was a giant waste of money, and after that, I'm not a fan of the Hakos. All right, that being said, let's turn this back off. And this should come right out. Oh yeah, someone's definitely had this out because they broke off the little retaining tab in there. Wow. This might have been our problem too. This could have been the problem. It's not that cracked. It's cracked ever so slightly across here. It's cracked. And right here it's cracked. And then up along the side here it's cracked. And it could have been arcing out of here. It's hard to say. And it's cracked along the bottom here by the screen pot. So this could have been our main problem, but since I didn't turn it on, there's no way to know, and I wasn't going to try because it obviously had issues. So, okay, now we can take this flyback. I'm going to put it right here in the garbage. There it goes. And, yep, that cap. So it's had a full cap kit. They're kind of subpar caps, if you ask me. A couple of these I'm not too happy about. But if they work and they're new, we'll just leave them as they are. So, what do we want to do? The flyback is out. Let's remove our HOT. And look for evidence of it arcing to the heat sink. No, not really. And we use our same method here of getting the HOT out. I didn't turn my fume extractor back on, but that's okay. Well, there's the HOT. We'll set that aside. Now with that out of there, let's check to make sure that our pads aren't shorted. And they are not. Is our C36 still shorted? It is not. So the HOT is definitely bad. Yep, that's a goner. So in the garbage this goes. Let's turn the fan on. And let's get our voltage regulator out of here. Yeah, if you guys don't have one of these desoldering stations, I'll link it down in the description below. You got to get one. It's just an absolute lifesaver. Saves you a lot of money on buying wick or desoldering braid. I used to go through a couple of rolls every other week, and not a couple of rolls, but one. I used to go through an entire roll every couple of weeks, and after getting that desoldering station, it's just like night and day. And of course it comes right out. And let's check pins 3 and 4. Shorted. It's a goner. You can even see how it's, wow, it's even, look how discolored it is from the heat and shorting internally. That's amazing. All right, in the garbage it goes. All right, so now, before we go through replacing all that stuff, let's take a look at some of this and do a little bit of reflow. We lost our pad number 5 here, but that doesn't matter because pad number 5 is a no connection. It doesn't connect to anything, so that's not a big deal. Yeah, let's fix some of this stuff here. That's better. That's barely in there, isn't it? All right, so what I'm going to do in the event, or in the interest of saving time, so I don't have an hour-and-a-half long video, I'm going to go through and do all the solder reflow and the rework. What I'm going to do is remove the solder from the high temperature areas, like this R89 here. I think it's, yeah, R89. You can see how it gets so hot that it loses the silk screen of the information. So I'm going to remove the solder from the pads, inspect the pads, clean them up, reflow new solder, especially R101. This one here that we know always gets hot. The common pads here and failure points, I'm going to reflow and remove and all that stuff and make the bridges and everything I normally do to kind of bulletproof these things. I'm going to go through and reflow and do everything I normally do. And when I come back, I'll have all that work done, and then we'll reinstall a new HOT, a new voltage regulator, test that, get a new flyback installed, and then we will do some testing. So just a moment, I'll get all that reflow and rework done. We'll come back, get those components installed, test it out, see what we get. Okay, so I got all of the solder rework complete for what needs to be done. So now let's install a new HOT. Where is my needle nose here? Where is the microfilm? The what? The microfilm. I don't know anything about any microfilm. Don't play coy with me. This is too important. And this is the plot. You're talking about the microfilm that contains the recipe for turning cocaine into innocent-looking cookies? I don't know anything about it. Alright, HOT is reinstalled. New one that is. Let's make sure that it's good. Hey, imagine that. Critical safety cap should, oh, backwards. Okay, those read, all right, so HOT is good to go. Voltage regulator time now. Let's line up our feet. I always just put it in the bottom side here to get everything lined up, or try to anyway. That way we can just get this to drop right in, just like that. Okay, now we need our insulator, and we'll get our screw started to make it a bit easier. And it should go right in if we did it correctly. It's a slippery devil. Got it. Okay. Make sure that's lined up. All right. Snug is all you need. You don't need it to be that tight. And let's get this soldered on. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now, let's test our B+ resistor. 180 ohms is what we're looking for, and what do we get? 172, perfect. 173, 4, it's hot, so it climbs up. 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's get a flyback installed and give this puppy a try. Does that sound like a plan? I think that sounds like a plan. All the solder on the neck board seems pretty good, actually. So I'm going to steal a flyback off of one of my other chassis, like I say, that I have as a replacement stock for the ones at the arcade. And then I'll replace that one with a new one when I get it ordered. So I'm going to come back, we'll have one ready to go. Okay, replacement flyback acquired. It should drop right in. Easiest flyback installation I've ever done. Okay, it sits down in there nice and flat. Alright, so here we go. Pads all look okay. Yeah, not too bad. Alright. Yep, just need to clean the flux off, and that's not too bad. Now we need to get rid of the pin here. Don't need that anymore. Thin wire always goes to G2. Alright, and thicker wire always goes to focus. Now, how am I gonna... Oh, I think that'll fit in there. Okay. So this goes down in there. Will it fit in there with the solder on it? It did. Alright, don't forget to wrap it through the holder there. And I think we're going to be good. So So there you have it. Oh, we're shifted over a bit. There we go. All right, so I think we are ready to turn it on and test it, because everything checked okay except for the HOT and the voltage regulator. Those have been replaced, and now they check good. And I kind of straightened up some of the caps, and I went through and reflowed and hit all the normal problem areas and bulletproofed those, so to speak. Got everything reflowed that needs reflowing, and you know, some of the other stuff I test, you know, we didn't test R103. As I'm talking, I realized we forgot to test R103. Should read about 2.7 ohms, and we get 2.8. Okay, if R103 is bad, you'll definitely take out the fuse. The normal other stuff like D13, D14, R91, R92, not really concerned about those for power. Those are more for vertical collapse and things. So everything that we normally need to test has now been tested with R103, and we're nice and clean, looking good. So nothing left now but to go ahead and just turn it on and see if it comes on, if something blows up again, what kind of issue we're facing, if it does operate and something else is wrong. Hopefully it works as intended. So let's get it on a tube and see what happens. But before we do, as I was cleaning up and pushing my fume extractor away and getting ready to move stuff around and putting my meter away, I looked up further on the test bench here and I realized we forgot to put the cap on. So got lucky there. Nothing would have exploded or died. We would have just had either a super large image or super small image. But I forgot to put the cap back on, as I specifically mentioned something about that. And it goes from here. Now let's zoom in a bit so you can see. It goes from here to here. Okay, there we go. That should be good. All right. Okay, now we're ready. Now let's turn it on on a tube and see what we get, because I almost made a mistake there. All right, so here we go. All right, so we're on the donor tube. We have anode, neck, yoke, ground, power, video, remote all hooked up, the critical 7. I got all the neck board pots set to center like I normally do to get a good baseline of color, and we can adjust as necessary. But again, that's not crucial because this is not staying on this tube, but just want to make sure we have good colors and a good baseline. And then we have the meter here set up to read our shutdown pot. Because the shutdown pot had been replaced and tweaked, I don't know if it's set properly. So the way this is set up is you want to read 9.8 volts for the shutdown pot. And of course your negative lead goes to your frame, ground, or whatever you want to use. I'm using the DAG ground in this case. Positive goes to the cathode of D12. So D12 is right there. You can see my red alligator clip there, and it's attached to the cathode side of D12 right there with the side with the stripe. And then of course your pot is right there. So we're looking for 9.8 volts on the meter. Assuming this powers up and turns on and runs and operates, we're looking for 9.8, so hopefully that's in the ballpark. And hopefully it turns on and runs now. We've changed out the shorted HOT and shorted voltage regulator, done all of our reflow and all of our inspection. Everything seems to be okay now. So hopefully it works. Let's nothing to it but to do it, so let's turn it on. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got life. Hey, and look at that. 9.5 and climbing. Do we have an image? Yes, okay. Vertical hold. Hey, well, we're stretched way too tall. Kind of like the last video. Ah, nice. Bring it right in. 9.5. Well, do we want to tweak that? I think we can tweak that. 9.5. So let's get in here and turn this pot to 9.8. Right on the money. Perfect. Well, not perfect, but pretty darn perfect. Okay, so now I'm happier with that. Okay. Hey, it's operating. Hasn't blown up yet. I think we're going to be good to go. I have the tripod here set up just in case it did work. We can set the camera up and make some adjustments here. This is a tighter fit than my last tripod. All right, so what do we get here? That's too dark and too tall, and colors are way off. Yeah, okay, let's bring this to there, vertical position, go right there. Let's increase our brightness. Focus needs adjusted. Otherwise, that's not too bad right there. Contrast helps a little bit, but right about there is the limit of that. Let's see if we can get our focus adjusted here. And that's better. Other than colors being off a bit, I'd say that looks pretty freaking good. Outstanding. Yeah, contrast is too high. Our green is bleeding, but that could just be turn the green down a bit, red down a bit, and brightness up. Yeah, looking good. What do you say there, folks? That's a pretty darn good turnout. So that's why I like to use an actual board from time to time, just to make sure colors are good. Green is still a bit too high, but let's turn the contrast down to right there. Brightness up. That's about as good as it's going to get without bleeding. But I gotta say, still nice. We're a bit too blue. The background's a bit too blue. Again, doesn't matter that much because it's not staying on this tube, but that's a bit better. Make sure the black is, or the background is black this time and not blue. Still a bit too blue, but no big deal. All right. Ah, that's probably better. Actually, that looks pretty darn good there. That looks much better. In person. It's hard to see on camera, but that looks pretty good. All right, well, let's chalk another one up to a successful repair. Shorted HOT, shorted voltage regulator, some suspect bad pads, possibly a bad flyback, but I don't really know. Can't say for sure. But look how much better that is from what we started with. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll link down below the desoldering station here that I'm using. Yeah, otherwise, I appreciate it. Well, stay tuned for more. Always got more on the way. Always got more in the backlog. So, I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.